Since the age of 20, Zandile's love for farming has taken her from farming in the backyard in Vaal to farming in the heart of Johannesburg, right here in Sandton, in Morningside Shopping Centre. Today we find out the driving force behind Neighbour Roots and understand where it all began with Zandile's farm. My name is Mbali Nwoko, and this is a private property farming podcast. Zandile, thank you so much for inviting us in this beautiful farm of yours. But firstly, tell us, who is Zandile Kumalo and where did your love for farming begin?
Welcome, Bali, to this beautiful farm of ours. So basically, Zandile is the CEO and co-founder of Neighbour Roots. This is the first Sandton hydroponic farm that was built on Rooftop of Morningside Shopping Centre. How my love for farming began was back when I was young, and I had a friend that used to farm in the on a backyard garden, and I was like interested, and because I felt myself wanting to be closer to nature, because I enjoyed the science behind learning how things grow, how nutritious does it give food to the people, what does it do to your body. So those were my curious questions when I was growing as young. And with me getting my hands dirty, with him being able to plant together, him teaching me how does conventional farming go. And that's how the love started. And with that growth, I started realizing there's no youngsters in farming. And then the question starts to arise, who will be feeding the future, you know? And we ask ourselves that there's so many elderly people in conventional farming, and youngsters are like, their reasons are like, no, it's unfashionable, no, it's too hot, it's hard labor. How can we Zeus things up? How can we turn things to be different within the farming industry? And you know, my background is analytical chemistry. So with that being combined, I was able to come back with the technology and saying, guys, let's start farming hydro. And then we moved into hydroponics, established our first farm in the university at the Vaal, and this then started moving food closer to the market, and therefore that's how we got Neighbour Roots.
Yeah, zoning in more into your studies. You studied analytical chemistry, like you said. How does that fit with farming?
So how does it fit is that the chemistry behind it. We all know that farming began as a science. We all know that most scientists are the people who are behind the farming sectors. And me understanding your phosphorus, your nitrogen, so it's what I do basically at school. You know, you learn the chemistry, your periodic table. So all that I learned at school is what I could see from nature. And I was like, this is me, my lifestyle, what I would like to be a farmer. And how I've loved nature and science, how do I mix it up? It was through hydro. Those both studies combined together, the technologies that you use, the understanding behind those scientific terms, scientific techniques, it made all sense to me, and I felt like I belonged.
Wow. So finished your varsity studies, fast forward to a couple of years later, and you meet your property developers, your business partners.
Yes.
How did that relationship come about?
Good question, Mbali. Back in 2020, you know, when COVID started hitting a lot of restaurants, because my business model, how we built it, was bringing food locally to the markets that we are, being able to bring it closer to the people getting vegetables from the farm straight to their plate. That is our mandate. But then now when COVID comes closing up on the restaurants that we're supplying, the thought comes to say, how now do we now bring it much more closer? Because now the distance of moving food to the retailers that are in the shopping centers, because in townships there's not much retailers that are open, so bringing it into the urban spaces. So that's where the question started. And also urbanization was growing, so how do we able to balance the two questions when you're now going back to the drawing board and saying, I can't sell this produce in my township because then I'm used to selling to people who are doing fast foods. Fast foods are closed. Which restaurants are open? They are all in the urban spaces. Which retail pick and pays are open? All in the urban spaces. Now, moving it from that farm and bringing it to Sandton, it's a distance, it's a cost. And you end up finding yourself that you don't want to give up on your dream, but that cost margin hits you on when you go back to sitting down and looking at your financials. So now you start making sense and says, okay, now let's go build on rooftops, unused spaces. There's rooftops everywhere. There's buildings in the Sandton city. There's buildings in cities, Johannesburg, in Pretoria, and these rooftops are not being used. So we can be able to turn them into farming. Hydro can be built on concrete spaces, so why not? And then that's how we moved. Went around looking to other property investors, starting to speak. It was just not shopping centers, it was different types of property spaces, people who've just got rooftops and buildings that are not used. So that led us to say, Flanagan and Jared is interested in turning their roof green and bringing closer for their restaurants, and we met that spec. So the vision and the goal with my partnership, we shared the same vision, and it was able to combine it together, and this is how it came about.
Wow, this is amazing. You know, it takes so much hard work just to find space, especially to start farming, and I think the way in which you've set up this place is amazing, because we don't see rooftop farms in our everyday lives right here in Sandton, out of all places. So tell us about Neighbour Roots. You know, how did you come about with the name, and what's the vision for your farming operation?
I'm happy to talk about this story because how the name came about, it's so magnificent, because when we bring farms, or when I build a hydroponic farm, I always look, as much as you look at the business, I always look at the exposure side. Who is going to learn? Because I'm still answering the question, who's going to feed the next generation? So that question still lingers as I go on with my business models. So bringing it closer here, we have collaborated with a school just across the road. It's called Red Hill School. With that collaboration, the greatest thing about the school, it teaches their youngsters about business, outside world, more than the schooling learning curriculums itself. So it gives them exposure in how business people run their businesses. So like, okay, we can bring the idea to them. We can be able to say, let's now teach them in how farming is changing, how the technology in farming is changing, and how we are moving, or how to run a business itself of farming. Because we all know that youngsters with farming, they're like, a hat, you need big land, you can't, you know, all I'm doing is like impossible. It's like a drop jaw for them. So it was easy for us to be able to come bring that to the youngsters and the exposure. So we went to them with the grade 9s. We went to them and said, come on guys, let's start showing you how does farming businesses run. Start from the business plan, you know, being interacting with them, getting them to understand us, the founders of the business, and being able to give them that little insight of saying, if you want to be a farmer, you can become a conventional farmer, you can become a hydroponic farmer, you can become. So, but we based it on hydro, and then most of the business plans that came through, and the winning team was Neighbour Roots, and we're like, your price is that the farm is going to be named Neighbour Roots.
Oh, that is such a beautiful story. So where to from now to in the next 3 to 5 years? What's your vision and plan for Neighbour Roots?
Expansion and investment. This rooftop is the first pilot to be able to show that bringing food closer to shopping center markets, it works, it's viable, and it's profitable. Once we've filled up this rooftop, we'll be taking the model to other rooftops and being able now to bring food closer, fresh food for the clients, nutritious, and you know, being able to bring restaurants lower down on their revenue stream, on their costing stream, because then now when food comes straight from up there, stays longer shelf life, it stays fresh, and the clients are happy for it.
Sure. All the best with your expansion, and please do invite us once you build more tunnels. But
Sure.
I'm quite interested to take a deep dive in the crops that you're farming and learn more about your systems and operations. Thank you so much, Zandile, for your time.
Thank you, Mbali, and I enjoy it.
Thank you. In the next episode, we'll be chatting more to Zandile about her hydroponic farm and get to learn a little bit more around the plants and the herbs that she grows right here. So be sure to join us. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching the podcast.
Say